Part 4. The Reckoning Summary. As hidden alliances are exposed and old scores demand to be settled, Marcus returns stronger and wiser than before. Every move leads toward an explosive confrontation where truth, loyalty, and vengeance collide. The final pieces of the setup are revealed, and no one escapes the consequences. Part 4. The Reckoning. The iron door clanged shut, a final, deafening pronouncement of Marcus's new reality. The king was dead, replaced by inmate. The air in the cell was thick with the scent of stale sweat, disinfectant, and something else, something ancient and unsettling. A residue of countless lives lived and lost within these unforgiving walls. Tariq, the elderly Muslim lifer, sat cross-legged on his bunk, his eyes, like chips of obsidian, fixed on Marcus. There was no welcome, no pity, just an unnerving intensity that spoke of decades spent in this concrete tomb. Marcus, stripped of his bespoke suits and his carefully cultivated aura of power, felt a vulnerability he hadn't known since childhood. His pride, once a towering shield, now felt like a flimsy paper mask. He was just another number, another statistic in a system designed to break men like him. The trial had been a blur of legal jargon and damning evidence, each piece meticulously placed by Elijah's unseen hand. The revelation of his closest friend's betrayal had been a deeper wound than any bullet, a poison that seeped into his soul. He remembered Elijah's smug face in the courtroom, a picture of feigned sorrow, his testimony a masterpiece of calculated lies. The prosecutor, a slick, ambitious man, had painted Marcus as a ruthless criminal, a corrupting influence on the community. Pastor Thomas had been there, his face etched with grief, his silent prayers a faint comfort in the storm. Maya, however, was absent. He hadn't seen her since that tearful hospital visit, and a part of him knew with a crushing certainty that she was gone for good. He had chosen the streets, and the streets had claimed him, leaving her to pick up the pieces of a shattered dream. His first few weeks in prison were a brutal education. The hierarchy was swift and unforgiving, the rules unwritten but absolute. His charisma, his ability to command respect on the outside, meant nothing here. He was tested, prodded, challenged. He fought, not with the calculated precision of a king, but with the raw, desperate fury of a cornered animal. He earned a grudging respect, a wary distance from the other inmates, but it came at a cost. Each confrontation chipped away at his spirit, leaving him more jaded, more isolated. Tariq, his cellmate, remained an enigma. He spoke rarely, his words cryptic and laced with a rigid, almost fanatical interpretation of his faith. He spent hours in prayer, his body swaying rhythmically, his low chanting filling the small cell. Marcus, in his own moments of despair, would try to pray, to connect with the God he had always believed in, but the words felt hollow, his faith a distant echo. The mental instability that had always lurked beneath the surface now threatened to consume him entirely. He saw faces in the shadows, heard whispers in the silence, the line between reality and delusion blurring with each passing day. One evening, as Marcus stared at the grimy concrete wall, a memory surfaced, sharp and vivid. It was the day he had truly embraced the street life, the day he had turned his back on Maya's pleas. They were in their small apartment, the air thick with unspoken tension. Maya held a worn copy of their business plan, her eyes pleading. "Marcus, please, this is our chance. A real future. We can build something good, something lasting." He had looked at the plan, at the numbers, at the vision of a legitimate life, and a cold dread had settled in his stomach. It was too slow, too safe, too small. He craved the rush, the power, the instant gratification of the streets. He wanted to be a king, not a community organizer. He had told her, his voice firm, his resolve unwavering, that he was meant for more, for something bigger. He had walked out that door, leaving her standing there, the business plan falling from her hand like a discarded dream. The regret, a dull ache he had suppressed for so long, now flared with agonizing intensity. "You chose?" Tariq's raspy voice cut through his thoughts, startling him. The old man hadn't moved, his eyes still fixed on some distant point, but his words were directed at Marcus. Every man chooses his path, and every path has its end. Marcus scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping him. What do you know about choices, old man? You've been in here your whole life. Tarek slowly turned his head, his eyes meeting Marcus's. There was a depth of suffering in them, a wisdom born of decades of confinement, that silenced Marcus instantly. I chose Allah, Tarek said, his voice low and resonant. And in his path, there is no regret, only submission. The conversation ended there, but Tarek's words lingered, a seed of unease planted in Marcus's mind. Submission. It was a concept alien to him, a man who had always strived for control, for dominance. Yet, in this place, control was an illusion, and dominance was a fleeting fantasy. Weeks bled into months. Marcus learned the rhythm of prison life, the subtle cues, the unspoken threats. He saw men broken, men transformed, men clinging to sanity by a thread. He watched Tarek, fascinated and repulsed by the old man's unwavering devotion, his almost terrifying discipline. Tarek was a paradox, a man of profound faith and unsettling psychosis, a walking contradiction that mirrored Marcus's own internal struggles. Then came the news. A transfer. Not to another block, but to a different facility, a maximum security prison known for its hardened criminals and its brutal regime. Marcus felt a flicker of hope, a desperate yearning for a fresh start, a chance to escape Tarek's unsettling presence. But as the transport van rumbled through the desolate landscape, a new dread began to settle in. This wasn't a fresh start. It was a deeper descent. The new prison was a fortress, its walls higher, its guards more numerous, its atmosphere heavier with despair. He was processed, stripped, and assigned a new cell. As the guard led him down the long, echoing corridor, Marcus felt a familiar chill. The air was colder, the silence more profound. He stopped at a cell door, the number etched into its cold steel. The guard pushed him inside, and the door clanged shut with a sickening finality. He looked up, his heart sinking into his stomach. Sitting cross-legged on the bunk, his eyes fixed on Marcus with that same unnerving intensity, was Tarek. The old man smiled, a slow, predatory baring of teeth. "Welcome back, young man," Tarek rasped, his voice a dry whisper that seemed to echo in the small space. "I told you you are in my house now, and Allah has brought you back to me." Marcus stared, his mind reeling. It was impossible. A coincidence? Or something far more sinister? The web of the setup, it seemed, extended even into the deepest, darkest corners of the prison system. He was trapped, not just by the walls, but by a fate he couldn't escape, a destiny woven by betrayal and a twisted sense of justice. The fall from grace was complete, and the final judgment, he realized with a chilling certainty, was yet to come. His cellmate, his tormentor, his mirror was waiting, and Marcus knew with a sinking dread that he was truly, utterly, alone. And the game, the real game, was just beginning. This was Tarek's kingdom now, and Marcus was just a pawn. End of part 4.